Right, so 3 comic book series that I've been enjoying. Well, enjoying is a word that I would use for 2 out of 3 of these books, and the third one is the end of a writer's tenure on a book that kind of... I enjoyed the ongoing of, but the mini that's followed, I haven't had as much interest in, or I haven't enjoyed nearly as much. But we're going to start off, I think we're going to go positive, negative, and then end on positive again, with a little bit of a negative put in there as well. For good measure. But the first book we're going to talk about is Green Lantern War Journal. This is a book that I've talked about to death on this channel because I wanted to hype this book up so much, and a point that I'm going to make throughout the course of this video, and the reason why I'm talking about these 3 books, which are seemingly unrelated, that the only kind of theme between these books is, and one of them is DC, the other 2 are Marvel. The ongoing theme is that they did just end recently within the last, week or 2. The reason why I'm talking about these in one video instead of doing separate videos for each run is mainly because, A, it's a view count thing. I don't want to spread... if someone wants to hear me talk about Doctor Strange, the Jed MacKay run on Doctor Strange, then they can do it through this video, and they've just got to wait until the end, or just skip to the end. I won't bother with timestamps because I like having a lottery there. I like making people stay and increasing watch time. If you want to watch me talk about Green Lantern War Journal, you can in this video as well. If you want to watch me talk about Ghost Rider Final Vengeance, that's going to be in this video as well. But yeah, I didn't want to kind of split it up because I knew that if I talked about these books individually, those videos are gonna fail. That video I did on Black Panther Predator versus Black Panther, which I thought, this is going to be a surefire, this video is going to get engagement, people are going to watch this. No one watched it. The Vampire Survivors video that I did beforehand, I was going to film another one of those today because that video is still doing extremely well comparative to the rest of my content. That video is in the 400s. Well, it's over 100, which a majority of my videos do not reach over that point. But anyway, Green Lantern War Journal, I have been enjoying this. I've enjoyed this book immensely since the start to basically right at the very end. I would have wished this was an ongoing, but unfortunately 12 issues, it feels like 12 issues, and what I will say about this is because there is a Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow movie coming out with Tom King attached, that's going to be live action. I would have said before knowing that movie even was in the realms of possibility to exist, I would have said this book would be primed for a animated movie treatment, like a Flashpoint paradox kind of there. But as it stands right now, there is now precedent for, we have to wait and see what that movie ends up looking like, obviously, but for comic book creatives to actually have say in what their movies are what the movies that are based on this material ends up looking like. So I would say get Philip Kennedy Johnson involved in translating this into a film, pretty much, or translating this into the Lanterns series. Hal Jordan's not in this. Guy Gardner is. and any more chance that we can get to see Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, I will take it. And Guy Gardner's not annoying in this. He's not overly overbearing. He doesn't insist upon himself in this book in any way. Namely because he only appears in 3 of the 12 issues, which thank God, because as much as I'm excited for Guy Gardner to show up in the movies because it's Nathan Fillion and everyone loves Nathan Fillion, I'm not a big fan of that character in the comics, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that character in a movie sense, or at least or even when it comes to if he even makes it to the show, because Nathan Fillion has a thing in James Gunn movies that he's in to not make it to the end. He tends to die either at the start or have very minor, memorable but minor roles in it where his scenes usually end with him dying. But I really liked this. We had a really good main story with John essentially being ousted from the Green Lantern Corps, not having his ring, having to kind of earn it back, and be sent on this multiversal journey. A lot of people are sick of multiverses. A lot of people have multiverse fatigue, but this story doesn't revolve around the multiverse. It's kind of just a thing that is in the we don't have John meeting up with different multiversal variants of himself, if that even is a thing if that is even what they call different versions of multiversal characters in the DC universe. We don't have that, thank God. We do see different universes or different timelines versions of Green Lanterns, but they're not Hal, Guy, John, Kyle. They're not those characters. It's a completely new character, so he could be a new character from our Earth if we really wanted him to be. And seeing the interactions between those characters, a lot of this book is just to see really cool things happen. We also have a subplot with John's mum, which is handled incredibly well, because it's the first time I've seen dementia be portrayed in a comic book, and I thought it was handled incredibly well. Philip Kennedy Johnson just seems to be one of the writers that really is doing incredible things both at DC with this and at Marvel with his Hulk run, which is proving to just go from strength to strength. But this book, I feel ended a bit abruptly. That's why I say that it should have had at least 2 more issues to it should have at least been pushed to 14 or maybe even 15, just to kind of feel a really fulfilling ending. But where it stands at the moment, the emotional beats do hit. The climax, although it does feel a little bit easy how they end up defeating this villain, it's still a 12-issue build-up of knockdown, drag-out fights, essentially. So it does feel earned, but I wish that we had a little bit more time developed to making us care about this villain. But from what I understand, this book is going to tie directly into the main Green Lantern book, which I have sadly dropped. But I'm glad that I did manage to keep up with this one, and I'm glad I managed to finish it, because it was a wholly fulfilling read from start to end. I genuinely, when this comes out as an omnibus or big extended edition when it comes out in trade in any form. Even if it comes out as one of those like compact editions, which I really like that idea of doing like a compact edition, which is a lot more affordable than a regular trade anyway. It's like the price of like a normal book. And now that I've started reading normal books, I prefer that pricing scheme than a trade, which is like £20 for usually a lot less pages, but the artwork that goes into it and the making a comic book, especially making a trade, is a lot more hard work than I don't want to say that, because writing a novel is a lot of writing anything is a lot of hard work. Writing a script, novel, anything is a lot of hard work, but there's a lot more moving parts when it comes to a comic book. It comes out in a much smaller, more digestible, like bite-sized thing. But when it comes to like the behind the scenes of making a comic book, it's probably an arduous, expensive thing. That's why I think they are so expensive now. I would love for them not to be, but because then maybe I would be caught up with more books. But I understand why. I understand why we are paying a premium for these things, and we should be. As a big tangent, basically, about just don't pirate books. I've had a lot of people talk to me about how they want to get into comics, but the only feasible way they see is through piracy. No, freaking pay for your comics. What are you doing? People work on this crap. People work on this, not for you to freaking get it for free. It's just like I get. I'm not going to say I get pirating a movie. I don't get pirating a movie. I don't get pirating anything. But yeah, just if you can't afford comics, don't get into that. Don't get into the hobby until you can afford them. Just, simple as that. Moving on swiftly. Ghost Rider Final Vengeance. This is a book which I am very I'm mixed on, to be completely honest. This doesn't happen in the issue, by the way. I want to say Danny Ketch. Johnny Blaze has lost the spirit of vengeance to Parker Robbins, the Hood. A choice which is exactly that. A choice. Not the choice I would have made if I was going to make any villain the spirit of vengeance. If I was going to make any villain Ghost Rider, I would have picked someone. I don't know who I would have picked. I would have. You know what would have been cool? What would have been cool, and they technically already have done this. They've technically already done this with the Punisher being given the spirit of vengeance, but also being given the power cosmic. I would have fully gone whole hog with giving it to Frank, or no, I would have just given it to Frank for this mini and just made Frank Castle the spirit of vengeance, and that would have been a more interesting story, in my opinion, than the Hood, because the Hood isn't a very interesting character anyway. I don't think giving him the spirit of vengeance makes him any more or less interesting. It's just an opportunity to see really cool drawings. And, I am not an artist. I'm not creative in that way. I'm not I can't draw for shit, basically. but I know what I like, and I know what kind of Ghost Rider artists I like. And this book, just to me, does not look good. Say what you will about Benjamin Percy's writing, he's clearly just making a summer blockbuster, or like clearly just making like a like 80s action kind of gore fest, and I'm here for that. And it does follow. I would say it kind of ups the tone to be more of like a B movie than the main like Ghost Rider series that built up to this. The Ghost Rider series that built up to this was more of like a Stephen King novel. This feels like full on action blockbuster. This feels like the Ghost Rider movie, the Nicolas Cage one, and that is not a good thing because those movies are not good, but it's not a horrible thing either because it still feels like a Ghost Rider book, but it doesn't feel like a modern Ghost Rider book. I like how far it goes with like Parker Robbins literally getting his face ripped off and actually seeing that on the page, and like, yeah, this is like a rated T plus book. It probably should be rated mature because we do see some very graphic stuff. I think a lot of it is hidden behind the artist not being great. So the stuff that would be really graphic to see and would kind of, you know, really pop with a different artist, maybe one that had a bit more like detail in their work, maybe one that kind of made things look a bit more realistic, would have made this book from like a 5 out of 10 to like a 7 out of 10, where I could say this is worth buying for the visuals alone. Where how I see it at the moment, it's just kind of a Blair story. It's kind of a forgettable story with kind of forgettable artwork, and I hate saying the word forgettable about something that people have actually like put a lot of time and effort into and built up. Not for that long, really, because Parker Robbins wasn't in the Ben Percy Ghost Rider book until the start of this. So the build up to this doesn't feel earned. These aren't characters that you would see like connect any other place. It's not like there's a big long-standing rivalry. It's not like Parker Robbins had a big role to play in the previous run. It's literally just like, we've got to give the Spirit of Vengeance to someone. We've got to give it to somebody. Put names in a hat. Here's a bowl full of Marvel's supervillains, or just villains in general, and you can pick anyone. And someone picked out the hood, and Benjamin Percy had to write a story and make it make sense. Does it make sense? Sure. Is there like stakes? Sure. Do I care? Not really. But yeah, that's Ghost Rider Final Vengeance. Yeah, it's forgettable. Is what do the youth of today say? Mid. It's mid. That's what I will say about Ghost Rider Final Vengeance. It's mid. And then we've got Doctor Strange. This is a ongoing from Jed MacKay, which just wrapped up. Final issue 18. A weird one to finish on. Like, can't you squeeze 2 more issues out of it and make it take it to a nice round number, issue 20. But no, I get why this is the final issue, especially after reading Blood Hunt. This technically still is a Blood Hunt tie-in, because this does not make sense without it. The Doctor Strange series hasn't been a accompaniment to Blood Hunt, at least not all the way through, because it started way before Blood Hunt, and the Blood Hunt tie-in doesn't really bleed into the Blood Hunt book proper. I'd say Moon Knight is more that, A Vengeance of the Moon Knight anyway. What I will say is that this Doctor Strange issue is an accompaniment / sequel to Blood Hunt / prologue. No, not prologue. Epilogue to Blood Hunt. And it's just, what is Doctor Strange gonna do now that he's no longer the Sorcerer Supreme? He's given his Sorcerer Supremeness and part of his soul to Doctor Doom. And we're basically just saying goodbye to the cast of characters that we've met over the last 17 issues. And yeah, there's no like flashy action sequences. Mordo does show up, but there's nothing that really happens between there. He does say something to Clea, where it's like, you may not choose to leave Strange, but you will, but eventually he will ask you to. He will tell you to, because he will see the way you look at him, and it will turn from love to pity. And when he sees that, he will no longer want you around. And that is interesting. There's interesting stuff in this. Jed MacKay obviously is a very competent writer. He's very good at his job. Blood Hunt was excellent. His Moon Knight has been superb. This has been very good, if slightly brought down by the artwork, just not being my personal taste. But a lot of people may really get a lot out of it, and I feel like it works for Doctor Strange. Like having this more like painterly, like cleaner, softer style of artwork works well for Doctor Strange, and it looks good for that kind of artist. I don't feel like Pascal Ferry would work for every character. He might work for a Silver Surfer, but I feel like he's at home with this book, but it's not my personal taste, I would say. But my big problem with Marvel in general, and this is a problem that has been going on or been at the back of my head for the longest time, is that we don't get very many long runs on characters. We get it with Spider-Man. Like, the Nick Spencer run went up to 75, I think. If I'm remembering correctly, it went up to 75. Because there was the Nick Spencer run, and it didn't go back to number one when Beyond started. So I think that still, and now the Zeb Wells book is on issue 6, is on like the mid-50s, so we're getting long runs there. Immortal Hulk went on for a while. The Venom book is in its 30s, approaching at issue 40. But I haven't seen, I can't remember the last time I saw a Marvel book get to issue 100. outside of when they went back to legacy numbering, and some of those books, technically, Iron Fist only lasted 7 issues. It was billed as an ongoing, only lasted 7 issues. So yeah, like when a book is billed as an ongoing, like I've seen it more and more recently. Marvel's like new sweet spot, its new number that it loves is 10. You get to 10 issues and then you're done. Black Panther got to 10 issues, done. Blade, 10 issues, done. I would love to see a book. I'm personally bagging on Hulk. I want to predict this current Hulk run is going to at least make it to 50. I hope it at least makes it to 50. And that would just be incredible. DC is great at keeping numbering. It only really goes to number one, goes back to number one when either A, there's a new creative team. Even now, Marvel loves making the same creative team go back to number one just because it spikes up sales. Like with Moon Knight, the main Moon Knight book got to issue 30, had to go back to number one for Vengeance of the Moon Knight for no reason. Same creative team, same writer, that went back to number one and now is going back to number one again for Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu. Same creative team, basically continuing the story. It's still about the Midnight Mission. We just are going back to number one with a new title, hopefully to drum up sales, because Blood Hunt just ended. Moon Knight is important now in the zeitgeist. The big writer that everyone's kind of got their eye on now at the moment, Jed McKay, is on that book. So we want to get as many feet in the door that series because it's going to be important going forward. So, go back to number one. It never works because the more times you do, the more Moon Knight number ones you do, the more complicated it makes it for new writers or new readers coming in and are like, Moon Knight number one or Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu number one, I can just pick this up. Actually, no, you can't. That is, it's not like the start of a new run. It's still technically the middle of a run. It's just an issue 1, but it's still in this saga. Even with this, the Doctor Strange book, this is not issue 1 of this is not issue 1 of this story. Jed McKay's run on Doctor Strange has been Death of Strange, Strange, Return of Doctor Strange to this. So yeah, there's been multiple books spanning multiple years for Jed McKay on Strange for this saga, basically. I'm excited to see what the next writer on Doctor Strange does. I'm not going to throw my hat in and say I want it to be anyone. Ideally, now that he's back at Marvel, Jonathan Hickman on Doctor Strange. That is literally the only person I can think can bring Doctor Strange to the top and basically make it the best, the premier Marvel title. Because this book was extremely good under McKay, but I don't think it's his best work. I just think it's a good book from a very good writer. I prefer Moon Knight. I think Moon Knight is the better book of what Jed McKay is doing at the moment. He's on Avengers, X-Men, Moon Knight, this, Blood Hunt, building up to the Doom event that he's doing later in the year. There's probably other things that Jed MacKay is on as well, but what I'm excited to see where the next writer takes Doctor Strange now that he isn't Sorcerer Supreme. The next Doctor Strange book is probably going to come out after this Doom event, so it's probably going to be made into Sorcerer Supreme again before the next run starts. If that does happen, I'd be a bit sad that no writer got a chance to play in this sandbox with Doctor Strange looking like this with the new, old blue cape. But anyway, those are three big two books that just ended, or that ended recently, and my thoughts on them, mainly just because I know that these videos wouldn't do well on their own. I doubt they'll do well in meshed together in this like weird three-way thing. I like Doctor Strange. I'm middling on Ghost Rider Final Vengeance. I loved Green Lantern War Journal. I loved that book. If that gets adapted into a film or into like the season 2 of Lanterns, I would be very happy. I think that's pretty much primed for what that book is meant to be. But yeah, I'm really excited for where comic books are going. I've been catching up with a lot of stuff. Superman at the moment is amazing. I think it's one of the best books coming out at the moment. As it should be, it's Superman. You know, that should always be like the top one. Daredevil continues to be great. That new Avengers Assemble book is fine. It's surprisingly good for what it's being sold to be. I've got a huge stack of Iron Mans that I'm basically the whole of the Duggan run I'm making my way through. Finally able to get caught up on Hickman's Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimates itself is continuing to be great. Every issue is better than the last. Ultimate Black Panther as well. Just everything Ultimate with Ultimate in front of it is a quality book. Even the X-Men one, I'm not reading that personally, but I've heard from people that are reading it that they're really enjoying that book, and that book is so good and so different from anything else that's on the shelf at the moment. There's a lot of good books coming out. So yeah, comics in general, a lot of people like to say comic books are too woke at the moment. Like if you're the kind of person that says the word woke seriously, like you don't have any kind of like sarcasm in your voice when you say it, you should just be like lined up and shot at this point. That's a little bit harsh. I don't think you should be shot for using the word woke, but I think you should be like slapped around a bit. Like someone needs to go like full Edna mode on you. Like just pull yourself together. Someone needs to do that. Because like what is wrong with you at that point? But I think when we're in a thing, or we're in a time at the moment where people aren't very happy with the movies that are coming out on Marvel's side, DC hasn't had something come out since Aquaman, and not many people were happy with that. I haven't even bothered to see it yet. And the Flash was just a car fire, was just a car that was on fire, with like some great scenes with Michael Keaton, but that's it. There's just, when the movies are so, there's such a question mark around the movies, and there's so many voices of negativity with the comic side of things as well, with people not very happy with directions of characters. People still have a problem with the amount of representation that's in books. If you're one of those people, fuck off. Quite rightly. The problem, if you have a problem with a book, you have a problem with the storytelling. You have a problem with the way the characters are written, not because a character just happens to be female or a character just happens to be black. If you are one of those people, sorry, I don't want you watching my channel. to be quite honest. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Next video will probably be a Vampire Survivors thingy. I've got the rest of my stack of comics to catch up on. There will be another Witcher book rambling session thingy at some point. I haven't even started. What is it fucking called? Time of Contempt. I haven't even started Time of Contempt yet. But that video will be out as soon as I'm done with that book that I haven't even finished yet. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Peace.